She ghosted you. No warning. No goodbye. Just silence. Now you're left wondering what went wrong. But a Stoic doesn't beg for answers, he finds strength in the silence. In this video, we'll show you how to deal with rejection and ghosting like a true Stoic, with calm, clarity, and power. Let's begin. Part 1. Understanding the pain of rejection and ghosting. Let's talk honestly for a moment. Most men don't say this out loud, but rejection and ghosting can feel like a punch to the gut. It's not just about a woman walking away or not replying to your message. It cuts deeper than that. Because it's not just about her actions, it's about what those actions trigger inside you. When she suddenly disappears. When she stops replying without explanation. When she says, "I don't feel the same way." You start asking yourself things you wouldn't ask in any other situation. Did I say something wrong? Was I not attractive enough? Was I too open, too vulnerable? And the worst part? You don't get any answers. Especially with ghosting, there's no closure. No final conversation. Just silence. And that silence is loud. It fills your head with questions. It keeps you awake at night, replaying the conversations in your mind, trying to figure out where things went wrong. Rejection tells you no. Ghosting doesn't tell you anything, and that can hurt even more. Because at least with rejection, you know where you stand. But with ghosting, you're left in the dark. You don't even know if you did something wrong, or if the other person just didn't have the courage to be honest. Now, here's what separates the Stoic man from the average man. He doesn't avoid this pain. He doesn't numb it with distractions or pretend it doesn't affect him. Instead, he takes a deep breath, sits with the discomfort, and says, "This pain is a lesson." The Stoic understands that pain has something to teach. That rejection isn't always a punishment, it's sometimes a redirection. And ghosting? As silent as it is, it can still reveal a lot about the person who vanished, and about yourself. So instead of running from the pain, the Stoic looks at it and says, "You may hurt, but you're here to teach me. So I'm listening." Part 2. What Stoicism teaches about love and emotional pain. Let's take a moment to go back in time. Back to the days of ancient Rome. There were a few men, Marcus Aurelius, Seneca, and Epictetus, who spent their lives studying how to stay calm and strong, even when life got hard. They were called the Stoics. And these guys didn't live easy lives. They faced wars, betrayals, death, and yes, even heartbreak. So they understood one thing very well. Love can hurt. Losing someone can break your heart. But what they discovered was this: the pain itself isn't the real problem. The real problem is how you react to that pain. Marcus Aurelius, one of the greatest Stoic philosophers, once said something powerful. "Choose not to be harmed, and you won't feel harmed." Now, what does that really mean? It means that even when something painful happens to you, like getting ghosted, rejected, or left, you still have a choice. You don't have to let it ruin you. You don't have to let it define you. A breakup might hurt. A woman walking away might leave a hole in your chest. But what makes the pain worse is when you start believing that her leaving means you're not worthy. When you start building your entire identity around being the guy she didn't want. That's when pain becomes suffering. The Stoics would say, don't give something outside of you the power to control what's going on inside of you. They taught that emotions are like waves in the ocean. They come. They go. You can't stop them, but you also don't have to let them drown you. Instead of freaking out or pretending not to care, the Stoic approach is to observe your emotions. Feel them. Learn from them. And then rise above them. Because at the end of the day, you are not your feelings. You are the man who watches those feelings, and decides how to respond. And that is true power. Part 3. Real-life story, the man who was ghosted after opening up. Let me tell you a story, one that might sound familiar. There was a man named David. He was 31 years old. On paper, David had it all together. He had a good job, kept himself in shape, was disciplined, and had worked on becoming emotionally mature. He wasn't one of those guys playing games, he was ready for something real. So when he met a woman online who seemed to match his energy, he felt hopeful. They hit it off almost immediately. They talked for hours, sometimes late into the night. They laughed. They shared their views on life. David even opened up about personal things, his childhood, the struggles he had overcome, and the kind of future he dreamed about. For the first time in years, he felt seen. He thought, this might actually lead to something. But then, something changed. The messages started coming in slower. She'd take longer to respond. And soon, those replies stopped altogether. No warning. No explanation. Just silence. David had been ghosted. Now, here's the thing, this hit him hard. Not because they had been dating for years, but because he allowed himself to be vulnerable. He thought he had finally found someone who got him. And when she disappeared, all of that vulnerability turned into confusion and pain. He started overthinking everything. He reread every message, trying to figure out what went wrong. He blamed himself. He'd lie awake at night wondering, was I too much? Did I scare her off? Was I not enough? He spiraled. Quietly. But then, something unexpected happened. One evening, while scrolling through videos and articles trying to make sense of it all, David stumbled across Stoicism. He didn't even know what it was at first. But he was desperate to feel grounded again. So he started reading quotes from Marcus Aurelius. He picked up a journal and began writing his thoughts down. He sat with his pain, not to wallow in it, but to understand it. Over time, something powerful began to shift. He stopped obsessing over what she was thinking. And started paying attention to what he was thinking. Instead of asking, why did she ghost me? He started asking, what expectations did I create in my own mind? Was I falling in love with the actual person, or just the idea of her? What does this situation reveal about me, and what I still need to grow through? David realized he didn't need closure from her. What he needed was a deeper connection with himself. He didn't get the apology he thought he deserved. But through Stoicism, he got something more valuable, peace. He understood that sometimes, people leave not because of who you are, but because of who they are. And instead of chasing someone who chose to walk away, he chose to walk forward, stronger, wiser, and more grounded than ever before. Part 4. When rejection feels personal, but isn't always. Let's talk about something that most men take way too personally, rejection. It's easy to assume that when a woman pulls away, stops responding, or ends things suddenly, it must be because of something you did. You start replaying every conversation in your head. Was it that joke I made? Did I text her too much? Did I come on too strong? But here's what a Stoic man understands. Not every rejection is a reflection of your worth. Sometimes, it's about her. Maybe she's not emotionally ready for a relationship. Maybe she's still healing from her past. Maybe she's overwhelmed with her own life and doesn't even have the space to give you the energy you deserve. And yes, maybe she's talking to someone else. And here's the hard truth. Some people just don't know how to communicate honestly. They don't have the courage to say, I'm not interested, or I'm not ready. So instead, they disappear. They ghost. They avoid. Now listen carefully. A Stoic doesn't take that silence and turn it into self-blame. He doesn't spiral into, I wasn't enough or, I should have done more. Because a Stoic knows this key principle from the philosopher Epictetus. Some things are up to us, and some things are not. Let that sink in. You don't control her feelings. You don't control her decisions. You don't control how she leaves, or whether she stays. What you do control is this: how you respond. Whether you maintain your composure. Whether you allow this to make you bitter, or better. So when she leaves, you don't chase. When she ghosts you, you don't explode or collapse. You remind yourself, this is outside my control, and I choose to focus only on what is within my control. That's real strength. That's Stoic detachment. It's not coldness, it's clarity. It's you saying, I will not let someone else's choices shake the foundation of who I am. Because rejection might happen, but disrespecting yourself in response? That's optional. Part 5. Turning rejection into redirection. Let's shift your perspective for a moment. When a woman rejects you, when she disappears without a word, it might feel like the end. But in truth, it's often just a redirection. It's life saying, this path isn't for you. But there's a better one, if you're willing to walk it. See, a Stoic man doesn't sit around asking, why did this happen to me? He asks, what am I meant to learn from this? That's the key difference. One mindset leads to pain and confusion. The other leads to wisdom and growth. Let's break it down. When she stops replying, use that silence to rebuild yourself. Let it be the space where you become stronger, not weaker. When she walks away, don't chase. Use that distance to see things more clearly. Were you chasing love, or were you chasing validation? And the pain? That sharp ache in your chest. Don't numb it. Don't drown it. Use it. Turn it into fuel to train harder, work smarter, live with more purpose. Because pain is energy. And you get to choose what to do with it. Seneca, the great Stoic philosopher, said something powerful. Difficulties strengthen the mind, as labor does the body. In other words, just like lifting weights builds muscle, emotional pain builds mental strength. So maybe, just maybe, her leaving wasn't a curse. It was a blessing in disguise. It was life removing someone who wasn't meant for your future. So that you could finally become the man who's ready for something, or someone, better. And that better version? It starts with you. Not her. Not the next woman. You. Part 6. Practical Stoic steps to heal and move forward. Let's talk about how to actually move on in a way that makes you stronger, not bitter. Because yes, you were hurt. Yes, she left. Yes, it stings. But what you do now, that will define you. The Stoics didn't believe in sitting around complaining about what they couldn't change. They focused on what they could control. And so can you. Here are 5 powerful Stoic strategies you can use starting today to take your power back. 1. Negative visualization. Mentally prepare for the worst before it happens. Now this might sound odd at first, but stay with me. Instead of always hoping for the best or assuming things will go perfectly in love, the Stoics practiced something called negative visualization. It means you imagine losing what you have, before it's taken from you. Not because you want it to happen, but because preparing your mind makes you less dependent on any one outcome. So if a woman walks away from your life, you're not devastated. You're ready. You already knew this was one of the possibilities. It doesn't mean you love less, it means you love wisely. When you imagine loss, you value things more while they're present. But you also let go more gracefully when they're gone. 2. Daily journaling. Clear the noise in your head. One of the most underrated Stoic tools is writing. Every day, take just 10 to 15 minutes to journal. Write down exactly what you're feeling. Your anger. Your confusion. Your disappointment. Even your urges to reach out to her. Get those thoughts out of your head and onto paper. Why? Because when it's all stuck in your mind, it feels like chaos. But when you see it in front of you, it becomes something you can work through. Something you can control. The Stoic philosopher Marcus Aurelius did this himself. His private thoughts became the book Meditations. So if he needed to write through his emotions, what makes you think you don't? 3. Voluntary discomfort. Train your emotional muscles. This one is about self-discipline. When you're hurting, you'll feel tempted to text her, to check her social media, to look at old pictures or reread old messages. But here's the hard truth. Those things only delay your healing. So what should you do? Practice voluntary discomfort. That means you deliberately avoid those behaviors, even when they feel almost impossible to resist. Don't reach out. Don't check her status. Don't go back to those places you know will trigger you. It's like a workout for your mind. Every time you resist the urge, your emotional strength grows. You become a man who chooses his actions, not one controlled by impulse or longing. And that, my friend, is power. 4. Reframe the narrative. Change what this story means to you. Let's be honest. If she ghosted you or rejected you, your first thought is probably something like, "What did I do wrong? Why wasn't I enough?" Or even worse, "I must not matter." But the Stoic doesn't ask those kinds of self-destructive questions. Instead, he reframes the story. He says, "She didn't reject me. She revealed herself. She didn't ghost me. She freed me from an illusion." Reframing is powerful. It takes a moment of pain and turns it into a moment of growth. Instead of being a victim of heartbreak, you become the author of a new chapter. One where you're wiser, clearer, and more focused on what truly aligns with your values. 5. Return to purpose. Reclaim the energy you gave away. When we fall in love, or even when we catch feelings, we tend to pour energy into the other person. We prioritize them. We think about them constantly. We shape our days around them. And when they leave, it feels like we've been emptied out. But here's the Stoic truth. That energy was always yours. You just need to bring it back to where it belongs, your mission, your purpose, your path. Maybe that means hitting the gym with renewed focus. Maybe it means diving deeper into your work, your craft, your business. Maybe it's time to build, to create, to evolve. Whatever it is, make it about you again. Because in the Stoic world, you're not defined by who loves you or leaves you. You're defined by how you respond. So stand tall. Reclaim your time. Reclaim your energy. And let your purpose, not a woman, be the driving force of your life. You can't always control who stays or who goes. But you can control who you become after they're gone. And that choice, right now, is in your hands. Choose strength. Choose stillness. Choose to move forward, the Stoic way. Part 7. Self-reflection and reclaiming your identity. When someone ghosts you, they disappear from your life without a word. But the deeper truth is this: it doesn't just remove them from your life. It gives you an unexpected opportunity to finally face yourself. Because here's the hard part most men avoid. You now have silence. No notifications. No good morning texts. No validation. And in that silence, questions start to surface, questions we rarely ask ourselves. Who am I when no one is checking on me? Who am I when I don't have someone praising me or showing interest? Who am I when I'm not being chosen? It's uncomfortable, isn't it? But this exact moment, is where the Stoic begins to grow. Stoicism teaches that solitude isn't a weakness. It's not something to run from. It's a chance to strengthen your foundation, to reconnect with your own values and identity. Let me say this clearly. Being alone isn't a punishment. It's a reset button. So instead of drowning in distractions, scrolling through her social media, overanalyzing old messages, or chasing new attention, take a step back. Use this time to rebuild yourself. Start asking, what kind of man do I want to be, even when no one's watching? What goals did I ignore while I was caught up in chasing her approval? What kind of life am I building for myself? Read more. Train harder. Refocus on your mission. Reflect on what went wrong, not to blame, but to grow. This moment of isolation, it's a forge. It's where your next version is being made. And most importantly, become the man you claimed to be before she entered your life. Prove to yourself that your value never depended on someone staying. Part 8. Final thoughts, what it really means to be a stoic man in today's dating world. Let's be real, dating today isn't what it used to be. You meet someone, you connect, and then suddenly, they disappear. No goodbye. No explanation. Just silence. And it happens a lot. We live in a world where ghosting is normal. Where rejection can come out of nowhere. Where people swipe left and right like feelings don't matter. But here's the truth. Most people aren't taught how to deal with love the right way. They aren't taught how to end things with respect, how to communicate honestly, or how to handle emotions with maturity. That's where the stoic man stands out. He's different, not because he doesn't feel, but because he knows how to control what he feels. He doesn't beg someone to stay. He doesn't lose himself trying to win someone back. And he doesn't let one person's silence turn into his self-destruction. He doesn't lash out, throw insults, or send angry texts at 2 a.m. Instead, he stays calm. He takes a step back. He reflects. He accepts what happened. He learns from it. And then, he walks away, not bitter, but better. He knows his inner peace is sacred. It's not something he trades just to keep someone around. Especially someone who couldn't appreciate his presence in the first place. That's what makes him powerful. In a world full of emotional chaos, the stoic man is steady. In a time where people play games, he stays grounded. And when others lose their cool, he keeps his dignity. He doesn't chase attention. He chases growth. And that's the kind of man who eventually attracts love that's real, because he became real with himself first. So if you've been hurt, rejected, ghosted, don't let it break you. Let it build you. Let it remind you of the kind of man you're becoming, strong, centered, unshaken. That is what it means to be a stoic in modern love. Conclusion. The stoic man chooses peace over pain. So, when love hurts, when she stops replying, when you're left hanging, don't fall apart. Stand tall. Breathe deeply. And remember, you are not your heartbreak. You are not someone's silence. You are not the rejection. You are the calm after the storm. The wisdom that grows through pain. The man who keeps walking, no matter who walks away. Be that man. Be the stoic. Backhand index pointing right. If this video helped you, share it with a brother who needs to hear this. Backhand index pointing right. Subscribe for more stoic wisdom every man can use. Backhand index pointing right. Comment, I choose peace, if you're walking forward, stronger than before.